rotate the camera. I can rotate the camera so you can see where I am. There's filters. All right. Okay, that's dogs. And I'm going to give it a few minutes until some of you guys can join. But in the meantime, I'm going to tell you a story. So, this past week, I was, so last week, like about exactly 1 week ago from today, I was in like an open mic night place, like a cafe kind of thing, where they had open mic night, and there was this girl who was about to get on the stage, and she was about to recite a poem. This is garbage truck. There's so much happening here. Want to watch how they do the garbage? This is how they get the garbage. This is, instead of a crane, there's a guy who passes it to another guy, A guy who's like Oscar the Grouch. He lives in the garbage can, and he actually, I don't know if you can tell, he has something on his neck so that it prevents him from like breathing in the garbage, so he keeps it in his mouth. So he actually lives in the trash. And then, yeah, it's so funny. And the dog. This is all for Nate. Hold on. This live stream is all because of Nate, because you're always saying we need a live, and like, oh my gosh, yes, what's up? So it's really loud because the garbage can literally just stopped right in front of us. So yeah, there's that street, and it's very, very tight. I don't even know how they just passed through. Okay. So anyway, it's going to be a very noisy one. So anyways, I was at this cafe. Yeah, thank you, Nate. Nate will say it every single day. And I feel really honored. Like, I feel really honored to even be able to do this. And like, it's very, so for anybody that doesn't know, I'm in Bali, and I basically live here. It's been a few months since Andrew and I have moved here. We sold everything. We actually stopped in the United States on the way because we had spent almost for about a year and a half, we had spent in Latin America, all over like South America, Colombia, Mexico. And then we moved. We decided we wanted to go to Asia. We wanted to come here to Bali, Asia. But we had a bunch of things that were still in the States. Like personally, I still had a few things that I wanted to get rid of because I didn't want to manage. I didn't want to manage the second home. I didn't want to manage. I didn't want to have a car. My car was sitting in parking storage. And it's like, so you might say, oh, you just have a car. Why don't you just keep it in Dallas? And then when you come back to the States, you can like continue using your car. I mean, cars are special. But it's, even a car can rack up expenses. Like, my car was sitting in a public storage place that was $50 a month. So it was $50 a month I was paying. And then the price went up. By the time I took my car out of storage, which was less than 1.5 years later, the price had doubled to $100 a month. So I started paying $50 a month with Public Storage, great company, really great company, and they have locations everywhere. I started paying $50 a month for storage for my car to be in that parking space. And then by the time I took it out, a year and a half later, it was $100 a month. So just to put in perspective, parking in Dallas, which you might think, oh, but there's parking spaces that are free, but I don't, they're not always stable. Things are changing around. Things are changing around a lot right now, and I can't afford to fly back from Indonesia to Dallas every single time something like that happens. And then on top of that, they want you to have car insurance. My car insurance went up. They want you to have car insurance just to have your car in the parking space. And anyways, so the liability of having a car is too much, and especially for a car that I'm not even using. I'm not using it. I went there, I spent $500 to get the car fixed and cleaned up, and then I sold it for like $1,500. So I made about like $1,000 off that car, which is, you might say, oh, you got ripped off. But I spent like $4,800 to buy that car brand new, so I don't feel like I really got ripped off. Like, ultimately I lost whatever. Most of the money I lost was in maintenance and gas. So Nate says, Pardes, you lived in New York City, DC, and Dallas. Now you're in Bali. You're a true cosmopolitan. Yes, and don't forget, I grew up in LA. Oh, thank you so much. I'm gonna show, this is what we have at Ubud Espresso. So it's like a deal. We have cappuccino, and it's a mango smoothie bowl, and it's thank you. It's the best place. It's the best smoothie place, and me and Andrew are here like almost every morning. We really love it here, and it's 55,000 rupees for this delicious smoothie bowl and cappuccino, which I'm gonna show you again. Okay. Delicious smoothie bowl and cappuccino, and this cactus plant. And so 55,000 rupees is like, in dollars, it's like $3. Yeah, $3 and like 10 cents or something. Okay, so and Nate says, Indonesia's a great country, so is Malaysia. I look forward to going to those two nations. Yeah, that's cool. And I've never been to Malaysia. I would like to check out Kuala Lumpur. If you guys are distracted by the sounds, I'm so sorry. And is Bali, so Nate says, is Bali cheaper to live in than LA or New York City? Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. So like, for example, this smoothie bowl, which I just showed you. Sorry about the noise. It's gonna be like this everywhere. There's just noise everywhere, and there's roosters like in our where we're living. I mean, inside of our house, there's a rooster. There's actually two roosters that live right next to the window, and it actually wakes me up a lot. So, this smoothie bowl, let's say, is like $3. I mean, it's like the smoothie bowl and the coffee together, right? $3. In LA or New York City, I mean, with that, you can't even get just a coffee. Like, you can't. It's not comparable. I got a smoothie bowl when I was in Dallas, like right before we came here, 2 years ago actually. I got a smoothie bowl right before we started traveling. So that's 2 years ago, which means that it's much more expensive now. But I got a smoothie bowl, and Dallas, it was $16 US. $16 US. That's a crazy comparison when you think about it. Pretty good. Nate says I spent almost $7 on frozen chocolate drink here in New York. Was it good? So, yeah. You know, people come here and they're like, oh my god, Bali is so expensive. Because it's like, for a lot of people, it's more expensive than they expected. But for me, as an American, it's very cheap. It's not comparable. And yes, there's events that are expensive. There's like touristy things that are expensive. There's touristy cafes, restaurants that you could end up spending a lot of money on, but the range is so wide. You don't have to go to the fanciest place. Like there's this place, they have a cafe underwater. They have underwater cafe, and you like watch the fish, and they have shows underwater. Nate Mark says, have you seen Russell Simmons and P. Diddy yet? You wouldn't believe if I said yes. Not on purpose. I didn't even know that there's like actors and rappers living here, but totally by accident. When you're an expat in another country, you're basically in the same group as everybody else from your country. So if there's a lot of Americans in the place that you are, then your range of people that you're with is going to be bigger. But if you're in a place like where you're like the only American with like 4 other people, you're going to be in the same group as those people, and you could be in the bottom rung of society and they could be in the top rung of society. They could be the most famous person, you could be the biggest nobody, but it doesn't matter because everybody just sees you as like the same. You're in the same group, and you're gonna like come across the same people. So that's something interesting as an expat, is like the kind of access that you have. Like you could have been in your home country, you could have been just like, I don't know, like literally I was wiping tables, wiping the floor, like right before I started doing this traveling. And yeah, like I owned real estate and stuff, but I wasn't comfortable, and I was struggling actually. But then I went to Colombia, I went to Latin America, and then all of a sudden we're like rubbing shoulders with like the most like well-known, most prestigious people in that place in Bogota, because we're expats and we end up in the same group, like being bunched in the same group as everybody else. Nate says apparently people running from the law can stay there. Is that true? I believe so, because there's no extradition treaty between Indonesia and the United States. So you go to Ecuador, you try to run from the law, go to Ecuador, you will get in trouble with the States. Even Panama, like there was this guy, when we were in Bogota, there was an American that went to Bogota and he was dating this chick, and like long story short, he killed her, he murdered her and put her in a suitcase. He was from Wisconsin, and then he tried to run away, and he went through Panama. He tried to run away to like Turkey or something, and he got extradited from Panama. So they got him in Panama because but he won't get extradited in Indonesia, so because Indonesia's not gonna like, I don't know how, there's no like relationship with states here. Okay, so let's see. Okay, Nate is like the best. Thank you so much. Okay, Nate says, Pardes, will you visit the motherland, Iran? Do not allow the corporate press to fearmonger you about that beautiful country. I very much agree. I would love to visit Iran. However, I will tell you a story that might spook you. My family had issues when they were escaping from Iran, and I'm actually scared to go because I'm scared. You know, like Iran is a very safe country, from what I hear, and my cousins are there, and I've been talking a little bit with my relatives in Iran. They're very happy. They're very comfortable. And I don't think that they're faking it, because they look gorgeous. They look comfortable, like their families, their houses, like they look like they're doing okay. And not to mention, anywhere that people say is like a destination, I don't even trust it anymore. Like as soon as any place becomes a well-known destination, that's how I know that I don't want to go to that country or whatever. And even Bali has like a lot of problems because it's like overrated in a lot of ways. So I actually really trust that Iran is the place I want to be in. And culturally, it's like where I would fit in. I feel like I fit in with the culture, with Iranian culture, because like, yes, I'm American and I grew up in America, but there's a lot of things that are very irritating for me about American culture. I'm kind of tired of it, and I feel like I would really love. I mean, there's a few things about American culture that are just very unrealistic and like very not, just not my speed. I don't feel safe in it. I don't feel comfortable in it. And I feel like Iranian culture doesn't have those things. Obviously, they're so separate. They're so different. You could say things to people, like you can talk to someone and like not trigger the same sensitivities. You can also, there's more of like a realistic attitude about life, and people are more understanding of being an entrepreneur, because in Iran being an entrepreneur is not like, it's not like, there isn't a word for it. It's just being a human. It's like being a person that is responsible of their own shit. So like, I feel like in the States there's a special like fancy word for being a capitalist, or like being an entrepreneur. There's like a fancy word for being somebody that is like responsible and like takes care of their stuff. But I think that's just reflective of the culture. Sorry. And maybe not a bad thing, because it just is a sign of wealth, because in the US there's enough wealth from the government, from people's ancestors or whatever, that they don't have to think about things like that. They can just rely on that single job or that single boss or something, or that single source of income. But anyways. I'm just gonna eat my smoothie bowl because it's so good. But let me show you something cool. So yeah, this lady passes here every day, and I really want to know how old she is. But I don't know if it's rude. I don't know if it's rude to ask a lady, like old lady, how old she is. So Nate, maybe we'll do a trip to Iran someday. And the other thing is Andrew. I worry about Andrew. It feels like, I don't know, it feels a little bit arbitrary, like whether we'll both be okay if we go there, or we'll be questioned. I wouldn't be surprised if we get questioned, but I don't want to put either of us at risk. I have, and also my last name is a little bit contentious in Iran, because I have cousins that were with my last name. They were arrested. They were put in Evin prison, that torture prison, for espionage, for spying for the United States. And I don't want to like speak for that situation, but if I'm connected to being related to those cousins, those people, then that wouldn't be good for me, because like spies are not tolerated, obviously. Spying for a foreign country, Israel, US, is not tolerated. And I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to get in trouble for that. So I'd rather not go if that's a risk. In the olden days, I'm kidding, even nowadays, people talk about spies, like spies, informants, whatever, like, oh, you're like the elite of society is spying on us. But usually the people that are spies or informants or whatever, it's comes from a position of desperation. They're like in a desperate position, and they're like, that's how they're pulled into it. They're not doing it because they're so comfortable, and like now they want to go and like just like they're just voyeurs, like they're like voyeurists or whatever you want to call it. Like they just enjoy watching other people, spying on other people, stalking people. Like they don't enjoy that. They usually, when people do that, it's because they're desperate and they're not in a good position in life, and then they were kind of given a way out, and this is their way out. So a lot has changed since the last time I did these live streams, and since I was in the States in general. Actually, the last time I did this live stream was in Colombia, where we did like a fitness session. But even since then, a lot has changed. Like both me and Andrew went through like a lot of changes. We were in Colombia for like almost a year. We were working on totally different things. I was working on my book. I was working on House Hackers Anonymous, and Andrew was working on a different business. Yeah. Oh, what happened? So a lot has changed since then, and I think it's probably going to keep changing in like the next few months, years. I think a lot of people that I know are going to probably move out of the States, just because that's the vibe that I get. I don't like talking about the States in general, broad terms, because I feel like everybody's experience is different, but all the people that I know of are really struggling. I was struggling a lot. All the people that I know are struggling. And so I think a lot of people are going to move out. It's just a matter of taking the time to like get your stuff in order, and moving is scary. There's like, you don't know where you're gonna be, you don't know what things are gonna cost, you don't know how long you're gonna be able to stay in a place, to be able to like set up your laptop and things like that. Hello? So the biggest concern is, how do people make money? And I think that it's just the same as anywhere else. You'd be making my money the same way as anywhere else. But it's scarier to think about making money in another place, because you don't know the same people, you don't have the same network, you have to like build from scratch. So that's the hard part. But it would really be the same as anywhere else, and in fact, most likely, like a lot of people that are worried about, oh, where am I going to get a job? If you're working a job, a lot of people, you're working from home anyways, you're working remotely. But even if you're working in person, like, you're a yoga instructor. I'm just thinking about yoga because I did the yoga training course to be an instructor. So the fear is like, oh, if I move to another place, being a yoga instructor in my home country, I can charge $30 per person. I don't know how people are charging in the States right now. I could charge $30 per person to come to yoga, but if I go to another country, I can only charge $5 per person. So that means that I'm gonna make less money and I won't be able to survive. But the thing is, like, also, the ease at which you're able to do everything is so much greater. And like, let's say I gotta show you guys something. And I'll tell you. Nate says, I will definitely move out of the States. I hate it here. My union takes half my paycheck and crime is up. Screw this place. I feel your pain. Nate says, I will most likely go to El Salvador or Chile. Oh, I've never been to either of those countries, but I heard really good things. I heard El Salvador is like really awesome these days. That lady that I showed you has got to be like 100 years old. Part of the appeal for me for this place is maybe because of like the landscape and all the steps and everything. People are really forced to stay young. And so I really want to be like a old lady that's still walking around and really young and smiling at people and carrying stuff on her head. Like that lady that I showed you guys earlier, she couldn't have been younger than like 90. And she was carrying a huge thing on her head. Imagine anybody in America and people are like, oh, well, they're able to do that. In America, they can't do that because, in America, they don't have to do that because America is so much more accommodating. But I think that that's a problem, like being too accommodating of disabilities. Being too accommodating of disabilities and stuff, I just think that people are weaker. For me, it's a problem. It's just like, I don't want to be the person who lives in a wheelchair the rest of my life, because if it was avoidable, okay, if someone is actually paralyzed and they literally can't get on a chair because they will never ever like they'll like never be able to grow those limbs. But even then, like, I saw a guy here that didn't have legs and he was still getting around. He was using his arms. Like, the thing is, like, when you have to physically, your body is gonna adapt over time. It's gonna be terrible and hard in the beginning, but it's like gonna adapt over time. And that's just how I want to live. I want to grow up that way. I want, like, if I have kids, I want my kids to be that way. I want to be able to live for a long time, and without so many flies. Hold on, I just noticed that Prodigal Heel is here. What's Prodigal Heel? Nate says, imagine if Chris Christie wanted to be a yoga instructor. That is so funny. I guess you can teach English for money. I can teach, Nate says, Pardes, so you still speak Farsi, don't you speak Hebrew as well? Yes, I speak and read and write both of those languages. Prodigal Heel says, sounds like Hunza is a place for you. Where's Hunza? Where's Hunza? Yeah, no, there's so much you can do. So much you can do, more than teaching English, more than yoga. There's like, but actually people charge a lot for yoga here. And I've been getting to know people because I was looking for like a yoga mentor type of thing, yoga training mentor. There's so many here and they charge a lot for yoga. I'm actually very surprised. Nate says Nate says in Thailand there are homeless men from England, America who love being homeless in Thailand. They would rather be homeless than pay rent in their countries. That says a lot. We noticed that in Mexico. There was a lot of homeless Americans. And it was actually kind of sad because, like, when I was little, growing up in the States, we always sort of saw Mexicans as, like, growing up in LA, there was, like, Mexicans, like, selling shit on the side of the road. We always saw that as, like, oh, poor Mexicans. But now it's, like, the opposite, where, like, the poor people are the gringos, like, Americans, homeless, getting, and it's even worse because they're, like, getting high. Just getting high on the side of the road. And we saw that a lot in Mexico. Literally, you're just, like, walking around. The normal people are the locals, right? The sad, poor people that are getting high. They're the Americans, the white people, and it's very weird. I think it's surprising for a lot of people also. I do not speak fluent Indonesian. I have a language class today in actually in an hour and a half. After this I'm gonna go, and Andrew's gonna go too. Prodigal Hill says it's a mess here. No one knows what they're doing. People are losing confidence in the government. I think it's like this everywhere also, honestly. Like last night we were in the sauna and we were talking about like US LLC. I don't even know if anyone can hear me. What time is it here? It's like 9 a.m. I'll teach you Hebrew, but why do you need it? You need it for to live in expat communities because there's so many Israeli expats. But so dang, what was I gonna say? There's so much stimulation here. It's crazy, and there's so many flies. So let me just take a bite of my smoothie bowl. So we were in the sauna last night, and there's like a bunch of guys were talking about US LLCs, like having like a Wyoming LLC. And the funny thing is that the only people in the place, in the sauna, that were actually Americans was me and Andrew. Everybody else was not Americans, and some of them have never been to America. But it's so easy to open up a US LLC, and it's so beneficial that it's much easier to save money and not pay taxes and have like a setup with a US LLC if you're not American than if you're American. Because if you're American, you have to comply with like all these laws, you have to pay all these taxes. If you're not American, you can just... And we were talking about it, like, everywhere in the world, it's becoming this thing where, and everywhere in the world, the locals think that it's just their country, but this is happening everywhere. Like, I promise you, this is happening everywhere, where whatever the benefit is in that country, that particular country, the people that can benefit the most from it are not going to be the locals. They're going to be the expats. And we have met so many expats now that are coming to America. They're getting visas, they're getting business visas to come to America. People with a lot of money. For us, a lot of money. But, like, compared to their European country, like Switzerland or whatever, places in Europe that they live, Belgium or whatever, they might not see it as, they see themselves as nomading in the United States. So this is like the rule, is that imagine every single country in the world is like a cafe. There's the people working in the cafe to make the cafe look nice and look like what it is, and then there's the people that are just shopping around at all the different cafes, and they're just like eating their smoothie bowl and having their cappuccino. So when you're an expat, you're the guest, so you get to really enjoy the place and appreciate it for what it is. So I can come here and I can say, wow, look at like the beautiful thing about like people staying young, the old people, whatever. I can come here and say, I love the culture, I love the views, it's so beautiful, whatever, because I'm a guest and I'm just here to enjoy the best of what the workers have to offer. When you're a local, when you stay in your country, you're the staff. So you're in the back, you're making the food, you're like wiping the floors. I think it's becoming this thing. I think it's like this everywhere, not just in the United States. Like, it really felt like it was just in the United States, but it's like this everywhere. So in the United States, there's certain things that the US has to offer that the whole world can enjoy. But as long as you're a US citizen, you can't enjoy it just as much. And that's why eventually I'm probably might want to give up my US citizenship. Because it's not like you can't go back and visit. Plenty of non-citizens can go to the US. It's very easy if you have money. Okay, so, all right. Nate says, so Pardes, do you want kids? I'm happy to hear that, because at one point you were totally against it. Yeah, I want kids so badly. And when I didn't want kids, it was probably because I was struggling. But here, it's very easy to want to have kids. It's a very kid-friendly lifestyle. I mean, I'm a kid in this lifestyle. So having kids here would be like just doing what I want to do. And I have time. I have a lot of time. Prodigal Hill says, I'm probably going to take a foreign language course soon. I also want to get a commercial pilot's license. Oh, nice. That would be so cool. Which language are you going to study? I'm curious what language you're interested in. That would be so much fun. I think traveling is really like probably one of the best things you could do if you can. If you can get a job that allows you to travel and just be exposed to as many places as possible, it's really a superpower. Like knowing what places are like, having currency and having different currencies, having like a place everywhere in the world. Like there's people that, there's just like a lot of people that have a house everywhere in the world. They have a bank account everywhere. You're just opened up to so many possibilities. Even the fact that we're able to be here, it's because of arbitrage. It's because we're from the States. We're able to enjoy it because we're from another country. And it's like that in the United States too. Like the people that love the United States the most, if you notice, are not Americans. There are people, like even my parents, like they live in the States. But they like it so much because they're not from there. The people that are from there are going to be a little bit more just squeezed. Okay. Nate says, lots of Bitcoin lovers in Bali, I bet. Yeah. You'll soon visit Jakarta. You must show us a live. Maybe if I have Wi-Fi, that would be pretty cool. Give it up. I sometimes want to move to Singapore and renounce my U.S. citizenship. I always say that Singapore is actually would be my go-to citizenship. If I could choose any citizenship in the world, it would be Singapore, the best citizenship. But the thing is that it's very expensive. If you want to get an investor citizenship in Singapore, you have to invest $10 million. So I don't know about you, but I don't have $10 million. So there's other citizenships that will be easier to get. For me, the easiest citizenship based on my personal circumstances is Panama. I think that Panama is a really good option for me. It's like a plan B. But I would really like like if I could choose any, Singapore for sure. Singapore citizenship. Nate says the world needs another Pardes. That offspring will speak like 9 languages. Prodigal Heel says, you know Russian is going to be one. My supervisor just walked out and I may get his job. Congrats. That's really exciting. I wish I could speak Russian because there's so many Russians. Like, I think some of my favorite people that we've met here that we became friends with are Russian, and they're so funny. I think the culture is more similar to Iranian culture, so I think that's why I like it. It's more something. I think it's not just Russians, like Eastern Europeans in general, but maybe specifically Russians. There's a little bit of like it feels. First of all, it feels like I can relate more. It feels like the whole realistic feeling that I explained with Iranians, I feel like Russians have that too. And it's unfortunate to me that like their countries, it's like I don't want to go to Iran, I don't want to go to Russia because because there's contention with our countries. But culturally, those are like the best cultures for me. Like I feel like I really get along with those people. I feel more relaxed, like I don't feel worried that I'm gonna say the wrong thing. And again, like I think it's the reason why I even would say the wrong thing or feel like I'm doing it wrong is because I think deep down I have that, like, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay. Prodigal Heel says, are your parents more MAGA or more socialist? Agree on Singapore, it's like a cleaner version of Phuket. I have so much more to see in Asia. My parents they raised me to be anti-politics. The fact that I got into politics, I think was just a crazy rebellion of them because they always raised me to be against politics. Like, we don't do anything politics. But if you had to put my parents in a box, I would say they're definitely right-wing. Like, they're definitely... I wouldn't say right-wing because that's a very broad term. I would say they're definitely not communist. My parents are not political. They don't like being political. They don't like it. And they don't fit into like the right wing, the right left of the United States. They definitely don't fit in that. But if you had to put a word on it, I would say anti-communist. And the reason for that is because they escaped from their country that had a communist, like a Soviet-inspired revolution. Like, it was basically like a Soviet-led revolution. It was like, and it's kind of like, started from the college campuses and stuff like that in their country. So that's basically what they're against, is the thing that ruined their life. So that's what their politics would be. But like, they're not, yeah. So, and I think a lot of immigrants that go to the United States, they go to the United States because they see, even like people that we meet here, people see the United States as like the beacon of capitalism. So if anybody struggles with communism or socialism being a problem in their country, they want to go to the United States because they think that's how they run away from it. But they don't realize that like the United States is the worst. Like, if you don't like communism, the United States is worse than all of them. It's such a psyop. Like, you won't find, because it's in the culture, and the culture is very deeply, like, even the right-wing people in the United States are deeply communist without realizing it. Like, their culture is very, and I don't think that it's possible to understand this until you speak another language, but not just any other language. Until you speak Russian, Farsi, like another language that is not existing within that paradigm. It's really impossible to see how left, not just the United States, but like Western countries are. So I think it's just funny that so many people from like other countries are like trying to escape communism and they go to the United States. Nate says, fun fact, East Timor is a neighboring country of Indonesia that speaks Portuguese. Wow, that's so interesting. I want to explore more. We still haven't. Nate says, I'm American, but I hate U.S. imperialism so much. I don't respect my own country. Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, yeah. I feel like I feel like I really benefit from the United States right now because like I have a US passport and I have, you know, US bank accounts and like stuff that allows me to live in other countries, travel. Also being American is still cool in a lot of circles. So that's a plus. But what Nate's saying, like the sentiment of like not liking, like I think that's gonna keep getting worse over time. It's gonna get harder, and already like we were talking about opening, we were talking about U.S. LLCs in the sauna, like I told you. This guy was saying that every time he opens a bank account in Europe, like this guy was French, and he was saying in his country, every time he opens a bank account, they have a questionnaire that, and also like in different places in Europe, they have these questionnaires where they ask if you're American, and if you say no, then you can open the bank account. So it's like that's like the main question they ask is are you a U.S. citizen? Because they don't want to allow you to open a bank account if you're a U.S. citizen, because banks around the world are afraid of the IRS because any other country might be tyrannical in their own way. Like they might say, oh, like you have to pay us taxes, you can't do this, you can't do that, whatever. But there is no country that is as powerful as the United States that can be tyrannical in the way that the US can be. Like if Colombia, for example, like nobody in Colombia pays taxes. This is almost a joke. Like the rich people in Colombia don't pay taxes. Nobody pays taxes. But it's not like the Colombian government has enough power and reach to like go after every single person that didn't pay their taxes. And especially if you move to another country, what are they going to do? They can't even find you. But if you're an American citizen and you didn't pay your taxes, or you opened an offshore bank account, whatever, they can come and find you to the ends of the earth, and they can and they will, and they have the power to do that. And so, like, it's not the same when people say, oh, like, Colombia is a tyrannical country, or this country is socialist or tyrannical. It's not the same, because the United States actually has the power to find you and come after you, and they are sophisticated enough that they know in a way that other countries can't. And they are also sophisticated enough that they have the power, they have treaties with every other country that if you were to be in that country trying to hide from them, they can take you out. And if a country refuses to do that, then they get on the US's shit list, which they don't want to be on. You don't want to be on the shit list of the United States. You don't want to end up like a lot of Russians. Their bank accounts are frozen, confiscated. You don't want to be that person. So I don't want to get on the shit list of the United States. And when I first started traveling, I felt like inclined to tell people about what I see, what's happening. I feel less inclined to talk shit about the States because I feel like over time, like I don't want to get. I want to make it clear that like I want to follow the rules, I want to follow the laws. I don't want to get on the shit list of, it's like if you're Chinese, you don't want to get on the shit list of China, of the Chinese government. You want to go and live in another country, you want to do your own thing, but you just don't want to get in the shit list of, but anyway. Cheers. I would love to visit East Timor. That sounds so interesting. I think the thing that most people in my home country, in the United States, struggle with, by the way, like I'm just gonna say it again. Thank you guys so much for joining this live stream. And Nate has brainwashed me into making this live stream successfully, which is like my favorite thing. So I think the thing that people are struggling the most right now in the States is just like overstimulation, because there's so much happening in the world. Like every country is dealing with stuff where it's just less favorable to be a local. Education systems are imploding, like, you know, healthcare. There's geo arbitrage happening, so you're having foreigners in every economy. You're having foreigners coming in and with way more money than the locals, and they're kind of driving up the prices. So this is happening in every country, but I think in the United States there's just overstimulation. Nate says turn on your donations next time. Oh, cool. Here, let me see what that. I'll look at it later. It's been so I feel like I haven't even. I'm yeah, I'm still reorienting YouTube. But thanks for letting me know that. So with the US, I feel like there's just a lot of overstimulation. Like a lot of things in your life are actually neutral. They're not good or bad. But when your system is just overloaded with it, it can become a bad thing. So like your friend texting you, how's your day, is not the worst thing in the world. If you have like 100,000 people texting you, how's your day? Then goodbye, prodigal heel. What's up, Josh? Nate says, Pardes, no pizza in Bali? That's the most important question. There's so much pizza in Bali. Are you kidding me? There's a lot of pizza. There's a lot of vegan food. If you like vegan food, there's a lot of hippies and there's a lot of vegan food. Like our club has 2 separate kitchens. One for regular food and one for vegan food. This is like this in a lot of places. People are really into vegan food here. Josh says, you gotta answer the question, how'd you become Bali's favorite Pardes girl? So, there's just a lot of roosters. Yeah. I think I'm gonna go. It's so loud. But I want to keep doing these live streams, and we're actually moving to a new place next week, and dang. So Josh says, don't go, I just got here. So we're moving to a new place because a few reasons, but like air conditioning, having a bigger place that's like not so much noise, like having windows that close. Like a lot of homes here in Bali, there's no windows, or the windows don't close, because it's just like a very cabiny, like jungle hut type of feeling. And so what you end up with is that you end up, first of all, having the same weather outside as inside. You end up having a lot of noise. There's a lot of like chickens, roosters, geckos. Some geckos are loud, like they have a noise that they make. You have like cats having cat fights outside. You have dogs, like you know, motorbikes, all kinds of stuff. So that's the other thing. And then you also just get a lot of animals inside, pooping everywhere. Like this morning, we woke up, there's like, there's a gecko that lives like in our ceiling. Like when I say gecko, I mean not the little baby ones. I mean like really, like a really big one, like this size of like my hand or longer, size of my arm. Imagine a gecko that's like this big. That's what I talk about when I say gecko, like special kind of gecko. I don't know what the name of this gecko is, but it's a special. I think it's called like a something with a T, a special T type of gecko. But they're very loud and they poop very big poops, very giant poops, and they live in the ceiling and so like this morning, for example, we woke up because the gecko like knocked over a bunch of things and it like fell on the bed, and it's just like and then on top of that, it's wet, it's moldy. Like my clothes are kind of all smelly. My clothes are all smelly. My smelly and sometimes dirty because the animals poop in them. The poop is not safe. It's toxic. Like I can't imagine how good any of this stuff, the mold, the poops. Nate says, is there cold weather in Indonesia? Actually, right now it's like the colder season. We're entering until the end of August is going to be a cooler season. So it's actually getting to be really nice. Josh says, did you ever listen to the podcast? Hold on, let me just go do this in order. Okay. Hey, Paul, what's up? So Nate says, Pardes, are you still open about your Jewish identity? You don't have to be observant, but I hope you always be proud of your identity. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty open about it. I feel like I don't have anything against it. Like I don't have anything against it, but I also like I don't feel very religious. Like I feel like yeah, there's just so many expectations to be, if you're Jewish, there's so many expectations that I don't really care about, like that I wouldn't want to be part of. Nate says Pardes is moving to Hong Kong, less noisy there. I do not think I'm moving to Hong Kong. Josh says Pardesillion is a great vaccine. Did the gecko save your money on car insurance? That's so funny. Yeah, these geckos can be like, it's cute in the beginning, but then it's like you don't have clothes after a while. You don't have clean clothes. It all smells like really bad. Like I just can't stand the smell anymore. There's also like a problem with the drainage. So there's like sewage backing up into our drain, and that is really hard to be in. Like I don't even like to be home at all. I don't like to be home, play piano, because it's too distracting, and it actually makes me kind of sick. Josh is funny. So, but it still doesn't make me want to move back to the States. We meet people all the time that are wanting to move to the States. They're not from the state. I think it's just like you don't even have to be sick of it. Like it's just not fun to it's just more fun to be in another country, I think. Anyways, Nate says in Indonesia the presidents only have one name, no last name. Yeah, I like that. I didn't listen to the podcast you sent, Josh. Did you send it on Twitter? I will have to take a look. I haven't been checking my social media as often as I would have in the past. Like in the past, I was on Twitter 24/7, and I still have those days when I'm on Twitter a lot, or on Instagram more than usual. But generally, what I'm noticing for myself to have healed my nervous system is just less stimulation, less being exposed to stuff. Like I'm so sensitive, and it's okay to be that. Like you have no choice. You have to prioritize yourself. It doesn't matter who you're gonna piss off. For me, it's like if I'm in an environment where anybody is limited in any way, I'm going to absorb it. But weirdly, it doesn't affect me. Like here in this live stream, you guys can say anything. I love talking to you guys here. It doesn't affect me, but I think it's more because like outside of a relaxed setting. Josh says the ones I sent like a month ago that you promised to. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I know what you're talking about. I think I might have listened a little bit. Like, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back. Nate says, I tell Brazilians who want to move to America that they will regret it. This place is not a dream. I met a Brazilian chick that moved to the States and she hated it. She said she was like doing heroin the whole time. Like she was on drugs the whole time. And I don't know how she's not anymore, but I met her in Bogota in Colombia. And she said she was like married to an American guy and she said she doesn't know like how Americans are so able to handle it because she was living in Florida with this guy, with an American. She was working, she was doing the whole American thing, and she said she like was trying to fit in, but she just couldn't handle it. It was too stressful, and the whole like work lifestyle. She said she was making a 6-figure salary. She was making more money than she ever thought she would make. What's up, Sonu? Thank you so much. She was saying that she was making a 6-figure salary, more money than she had ever imagined in Brazil. And but she just couldn't handle the like crazy work lifestyle. Ooh, look who's here. Look. There's Andrew. So yeah, she just couldn't handle the lifestyle, and she said it was like everybody was just like, she said like so she married an American guy, and the guy was like totally used to it because he's from the US, so it was normal for him. And she was just not handling it. She was like, okay, I have to go back to Brazil. Let's go back to Brazil. The guy was like, I don't want to come with you to Brazil. So she ended up like going by herself and getting a divorce. Anyways. Yeah. Nate says, that's another thing I enjoy about Southeast Asia. They'll punish you if you get involved with drugs to discourage you to be drug use. Babe, what do you think is gonna happen? Josh says, Pardes backwards is Sedrock, which sounds like a gangster rapper. That will be my rapper name. Babe, what do you think would happen if somebody was caught with the drugs here?
I don't know what the penalty is, because we don't really need to worry about it. I just know they're strict.
I heard it's really bad. But anyways, yeah, I heard it's really bad and not worth it. And there's enough like relaxing things. I mean, this is like healing central. Like if you come here, you're coming here to heal. You're coming to do yoga and get massages, like really cheap massages. Our massages, literally $6.83. Very cheap, amazing massages. And like spas, a ton of spas. So that's what you're coming here for. You're not gonna, believe it or not, it's really hard to tell somebody this when, like if I had to tell myself this, if I was on gummies, it's really hard to say this, but you're just not gonna be needing those things as much. So, Sonu says, do you have any plan to visit India? That is a question for Andrew. Babe, do we have any plan to visit India?
No.
No. But I have a friend who's living in India right now. She's living in the jungle. And it's close enough. Nate says, rightfully so, keep drugs away from people. Capitalism is responsible for that. Yeah, I'm sure they have like, I'm sure there's like underground drugs and stuff like that. It's just, yeah, your life changes when you stop relying on any kind of crutch. Anyway, Andrew just got here, so I want to hang out with him a little bit. But I wanted to say hi to you guys, and I'm really excited to start doing these live streams again. And hopefully, yeah, it's gonna be like more chill and more just focused. Maybe Andrew and I will visit Iran if if things are like really different. But yeah, anyways, okay. I will see you guys in the next live stream, and like, it's really good to see you guys. Okay, bye.